Hey Lisa, how are ya?
Good. We're twins today. Look at our hair. We look so
Oh, yeah, we
cute.
got the hair, except yours looks all lovely with the little
Stop.
swoopy thing.
Stop. You look so
You're
beautiful.
adorable.
It's like my daughter and their friends when they were teenagers, and it was just like, no, you look so beautiful.
No,
No, stop you.
you, you look beautiful.
Oh my
Stop.
gosh. Oh my gosh. Thanks. She doesn't do that anymore. They're very honest and
They're past
earnest
that.
in their compliments of each other, and
Oh,
they're much better than you look so good.
you do that really scaringly well.
I was a teenager once and I remember it well. I am very glad to no longer be a teenager. I was not your favorite teenager, anyone's favorite teenager. Ask my mom. She
Mm.
doesn't need the PTSD though, so maybe not.
Is any teenager, I think they do that purposely. Teenagers are purposely like gnarly at that stage, just so you don't miss them as much when they actually leave.
Oh, is that what it is?
I think
Mine
that's
have
what it
not
is.
left yet though. I mean, and Bryn's always been such a good, I'm not going to say the other kids were bad. Teenagers in general, there's some difficulties, but Bryn was always, that kid who would be like, um, I'm really feeling frustrated right now, so I'm going to go to my room for a little while so that I don't say something I might regret. Like,
That's impressive. That's
wow, yeah,
impressive.
yeah,
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, I really can't complain. Josh was actually pretty cool as well.
yeah. I
And
believe it.
so there's Josh there. I don't
Hi,
know if you can
Josh.
see.
Josh in
Well,
the
the
teenage
picture
Josh in the
of
picture.
Josh. Yeah, I think he was about 13 or something there.
Oh
He's
wow,
really cute. Yeah,
he's very cute. He's
yeah.
cute now too.
Yes, he is. He's very
Mhm.
cute. All grown up. Crazy how fast they do that.
I can't believe how
So,
fast time flies. Like that all my
mm-hmm,
kids are grown up and my youngest one will
mm-hmm.
be leaving the nest soon. But I'm not really in a rush for it. He's almost 23 years old and I'm okay with him being here. I really enjoy his company.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the nice thing when they do, you know, fly away. Thankfully, mine's actually fairly close. He's
yeah.
a half hour drive from here. So, but I really value that time that we have together now. It's really about quality
Mhm.
and just and as an adult, I mean, they have a whole other appreciate. I think we both mutually have different appreciations for
For
each
each
other.
other.
Yeah. And so those
100%.
times are really special. And now, he's a married man and his wife, Jada, she's just a sweetheart
Yeah.
as well. And it's just a real pleasure, spending time with them and seeing them do life together. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I mean, I really appreciated all the,
The
parts of the
stages.
different stages all along.
Yeah.
Toddler Josh was like totally stinking cute. Like he was just an adorable little guy. He had the big cheeks, and I mean, he was just so cute, and he was very chatty.
Yeah.
Like he could chat to anybody. He still is. He can chat to anybody, anytime about anything. Doesn't matter how old you are, whatever. He can just really. He's got this gift of connecting with people. It's really cool.
It's
It's really,
awesome to
really
see,
cool.
hey? Yeah.
Yeah,
I
totally.
love seeing my kids as adults and enjoy spending time with them so much and enjoy the connection. We have a group chat, so I get the mom messages all the time like checking in, I love you and good night
Oh,
everyone.
sweet.
And they're just all saying I love you to each other and I'm like, my babies.
Oh, teary, teary.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. I don't
Oh,
want to ever
that's
take it for
cute.
granted.
Yeah,
Yeah. Took a
yeah,
long time to get to this stage and boy, I love it. I love it so
yeah.
much. So, yeah.
Nice.
Have you
Very
been baking
cool.
anything?
Well, the last thing that I baked, I mean, it was kind of like a cheat bake. I had some leftover cherries, believe it or not. Usually I eat them all. And actually, I do. It's been really bad. I love cherries. They're probably one of my favorite fruits to eat fresh.
Mhm.
Raspberries. Actually, I like a lot of fresh fruit.
Yeah.
But anyway, cherries, especially when they come out this time of year. And I grew up in the Okanagan, so they're
Yeah.
in my blood, literally. And I just can't get enough. And I literally go through probably 2 to 3 pounds of cherries every 2 or 3 days. So it works out about a pound of cherries every day. It's probably not that
Oh,
great for me, but
I'm trying to figure out
it's a
your
short
digestive.
period of time.
Yeah, the nurse in me is running through all these things like, okay, is that going to make you constipated, or is that going to have the
No,
opposite effect, or is it? It's going to do something if you have
it's
that many.
good.
You're like, I'm
It's
fine.
I'm good. I'm so good. And it's a temporary thing, right? It
Yeah,
won't
it's
be
true.
like a forever thing because cherry season is generally fairly short. So I probably have another maybe 2, maybe 3 weeks of like just
Enjoy it.
enjoying them all.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I actually did a little cheat bake. I did some store-bought phyllo pastry
Yeah.
and just did little pies with the
Oh,
cherry filling
nice.
that I had. It was really delicious, super
And
quick,
then you ate
easy,
all
right?
of them.
Between my husband and I, we did. So yeah, but I didn't have a lot of the cherry compote left over. So
Mhm.
there were only 4 that we made. And so over a couple of days, they were enjoyed after dinner. So
Oh, that
yeah, that's
sounds
about it. Oh,
delicious.
and I actually added in a little crushed, like some just toasted
Almonds.
pistachios in there as well. Pistachios, that cherry pistachio combo.
I have some
Very nice.
pistachios on my counter right now, ground up toasted pistachios that now I'm like, maybe I should have some cherries too. I'm not huge
Mm.
on cherries. Don't
Oh,
hate me, but I just haven't
no, I don't.
ever been really
I'll
huge on them. I don't like blueberries either,
yeah,
but blueberries and pistachios would not be good, I don't think.
blueberries and pistachios. No, I don't. I've never had that combo, so I'm really not quite sure.
Mochi
Blueberry? Oh no, what's Mochi doing?
is very, very violently humping one of the other dogs. The whole the
Mochi.
whole couch is moving. The patio furniture. Uh,
Oh,
this is
do
a
you need to
dominant.
go?
It's a no. I mean, she can't do anything to him. It's a dominance thing but
Uh,
she's the tiniest of all of them, right? And you just saw her. She looks like a little chihuahua, as we said. And she's just like,
oh my god,
I'm your queen.
she rules. She definitely rules that household for sure.
Gosh, I was like, what is happening? Oh,
Oh, that's
it's
happening.
disturbing. It's disturbing because that is her child. So yeah,
That's even more disturbing.
yep, yep. Don't love it. Don't love it. So
No, no.
yeah.
Anyway, aside from that, what have you been baking?
Well, we recently opened up. Sorry, we recently opened up an Airbnb downstairs in our place, and I love hosting. I love doing the whole bed and breakfast thing. And so I've kind of made it one of my special touches that I provide fresh baking upon check in for all of my
Oh,
guests. And so, you're tending to do those things that are kind of quick and simple, but still taste really good. So,
mhm.
a couple of days ago, I made some brown butter blondies for my guests. They
Ooh,
were
that doesn't.
delicious.
I
What?
mean, so well. I mean, just simple little bakes that are quick and easy. And I did some brown butter blondies.
Yeah.
I was thinking I made some like muffins
I
or
made muffins the next day.
what?
Yesterday, I made banana muffins with chocolate chip,
Nice.
and I wanted to sprinkle some pistachios, mix
Oh,
some pistachios in there actually because I had those leftover pistachio crumbs. But I just thought they had not responded to my question about do you have any allergies yet?
hmm.
And I was like, you know what? Let's just not put nuts in there. Let's
Just in
be
case.
yeah,
Yeah,
just in case. And then they did respond and said no allergies, and I was like, well, it's too late now. But anyway, so some simple stuff, not
yeah,
anything too exciting, but
yeah.
smells good, tastes good. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And can we have a moment for brown butter?
Oh man, brown butter is
Mm,
just amazing. And
mm.
and what you get out of it for the little bit of extra time that it takes, so worth it.
I know.
So worth it. And these blondies, they just have this beautiful crinkly top because I just like whipped the crap out of that butter, brown sugar, egg mixture. And I was just like, all right, we're gonna get some nice crinkly tops. Pro tip. You get crinkly tops if you whip the crap out of the butter, brown sugar, egg mixture. And
Wow.
then add your flour
Bonus.
in. And you don't want to overmix the flour, but
No.
the flour mixture, the dry ingredients. But yeah, wow, they were
Nice.
really good. And Chris was very happy because he got to have a couple of them because, there were only two people coming. You don't need to serve 9 giant blondies to them. So might as well make
Exactly.
my husband happy.
Happy as well. Absolutely. Makes
Yeah.
total sense. So what is the technique? So whipping the crap out of the butter and sugar and eggs, how long did you do that for? Or do you
I
remember? And
I don't remember exactly how long. I just I started it out kind of slow. I
mhm,
actually I was letting the brown butter cool a little bit, so because I didn't want it to be hot when I poured it in with the eggs. So I
yeah.
was whipping the eggs together with the sugar, and I just let it go, 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 go while stuff cooled down. And then I very slowly poured that brown butter in there, and got all the lovely nutty solids at the
Mm,
bottom and
mm, mm, mm.
scraped them into. And then I just turned that on high once they were all nicely incorporated together, and let it go while I started measuring out the dry ingredients. And it looked really good. It looked like
They sound delicious.
caramel. It was so beautiful. Yeah, smelled
Nice.
good.
And that extra flavor bomb with that
Yes,
brown butter
yeah.
would be amazing. Like that,
Mhm.
just that nuttiness with the caramelization of the blondie, it would be
It was good. I was
amazing.
happy.
Did you throw in white chocolate chips in there as
I
well,
did.
or
Actually,
yeah?
yeah, chopped up I
Mm,
didn't have white chocolate chips, but I
mm,
had some white chocolate. So I went in there with a big knife and just kind of chopped it up into a bunch
nice.
of tiny, well, some larger pieces. It was pretty
Yeah,
good. Pretty
nice.
good.
Sounds so delicious.
It was good.
So,
Yeah, very tasty, nice
yum, yum,
chewy.
yum, yum.
I
Now
know.
I feel
I'm
like I
gonna go
need to make some.
make some more now. Yeah. So, our next guest that we have is
So
someone who
excited.
was on the last season of the Great Canadian Baking Show, season 7, and she actually got pretty far on that show and did very, very, very well. She's such a lovely person, and I'm very, very excited to introduce Candice Riley. She,
Woohoo!
yay! Oh,
Kansas. Oh, even the
wait,
dogs are
the dogs are
excited.
all excited. Welcome, Candace. All right, guys, all is well.
That's awesome. And we both had a chance to meet up with Candice actually, because she traveled out to the Vancouver auditions for season 8. So
Yes.
I was so happy to meet her. And she was even more of, lovely in person than she even came off on the show, which was amazing. I loved her on season 7.
Yeah, and did you know of her before, like on the on Instagram and Facebook? Because she was quite active in this group that basically does like a monthly um,
Mm,
baking challenge. And so, yeah, she kind of, I wasn't sure if she really managed to disappear from, like, how sometimes
mm,
you think, oh, maybe
mhm.
that person's on the show because they've disappeared for a while. Um, but I don't think that I realized she was gone until all of a sudden it was announced that, yes, she was on the show. And then I got really excited because I was like, I know her. That's
Oh,
always
nice.
so much fun.
I know.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't know of Candice before, so I wasn't obviously in that baking circle.
Mhm.
I do this every time the new cast gets announced. I go on Instagram and find them all, and add them and friend them and that kind of stuff, and start following them and look back at what they've done and whatnot. So yeah, get to know them a little bit before we actually see them bake up a storm on the show in that tent.
Oh yeah, and it's so much fun to watch. And when it's somebody that you have even a kind of a peripheral connection to, especially, at the
Totally.
beginning of the season when you go in, you're like, oh, this person, oh, this person, oh, this person.
Yeah.
You kind of make these kind of guesses. All right, well, based on what I see on their profile, how far are they going to go? What kind of
Hmm.
style are they going to have, and everything. And it's always really fun to watch
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. That is very cool. I mean, the only person that that actually know, like that I was following that actually got onto a
Yeah.
season was Lydiane.
Oh, okay.
Actually. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'd actually had conversations with her before and whatnot, and I'm like, and I knew she was applying as well,
Yeah.
so I'm like, good luck on your application and blah blah blah, and then then the cast gets announced, and I'm like, oh my god, you
I
didn't
know.
even, I had no
I
idea.
know.
So,
when
It's
Rosemary
cool.
got on, I believe
Mhm.
she was season 6, and I was super super excited to see her because I had been chatting with her a little
Yeah,
bit on Instagram too, and I was like, "It's Rosie!"
yeah.
That's so
It's
funny.
so cool, right?
It
It's
really is.
like, and then it gets you even that much more. Not that you needed to have another reason to watch, right? Because we're going to watch it anyway
We're
because
gonna
it's
watch
such
it.
a great show.
Yeah,
But it just, yeah, another reason to cheer them on. And it's like,
exactly.
when Katie was on Cook at All
Yep.
Costs and the Big Bake. I mean, we knew her, and it's like, and yeah, you're just like, we know
You
you,
know
I
her.
know
Yeah,
you,
exactly. Oh,
and you're cheering on, right? It's a really cool thing.
yeah, it really is. I'm gonna stop the recording,
Sure.
and then
We'll
we're
restart
going
when
to.
Candice comes on.
Hi, Candice.
Hey,
Hi.
Candice.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming and joining us today. I'm so excited that we get to chat with you for a little bit.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here and get to talk to you both. And online, I got to meet you in February, so it's good
Yeah,
to talk again.
Yeah,
yeah, and we go ahead.
nope. I was going to say, you came out to the season 8 auditions out all the way out in Vancouver, joining us from Ontario. It was so nice of you to make the time and effort to come all the way to the West Coast to hang out with us at the audition. It was so much fun
That was
meeting
awesome.
you. Yeah,
It
It
was a
was
nice
my
surprise.
pleasure. Yeah, I remember being in that sort of position like last year, and I went to the Montreal audition, and so I remember the feeling. Everyone was really quiet in the room, and then once the bakers from the previous season, so it was like Rosemary and Jay and Kunal and Lejan were there, and I was just like, it was starstruck, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember that feeling, but it also loosened up the whole room, and all of a sudden everyone was relaxed and having conversations, and
yeah.
the making of friends was a little bit easier. So I wanted to be able to do that for the next crop of bakers,
oh,
and to meet friends that I'd met online, and
Yeah.
got an opportunity to see.
Yeah, that was really awesome. And you have a child who's going to school in Vancouver, right?
Yeah, my
So that was
oldest
a good.
is there, and so it was kind of a convenient excuse to go see them. And then I worked my I have we have offices across Canada, so I got to do a little bit of work and see some of my colleagues as well. So it was like a three for one deal.
that's
Was
awesome.
it
When you can combine all of that into one trip, that's brilliant.
Yeah, for sure.
was it quite a whirlwind trip? Like how many days were you actually there for?
I think I flew in on a Saturday and I was out on Wednesday.
Oh, good.
Mostly I extended for work just to get a couple of actual working days. One day I was there just to clean my oldest's dorm room, because it was, and they had exams that week, so I went trying to take some pity on them, but I
That
don't
was
know
very kind of
how
you.
effective I was.
That was so nice, and I think we totally understand um, why you would probably want to do that with a teenage boy.
Yeah, yeah,
We were just talking about our relationships with our kids and how they are now that they're because our kids are all adults, and so being able to have this relationship with them on a totally different level.
Mhm.
And of course, the dogs are growling. So this is becoming our regular background here. I try to mute it as much as I can, but there's 4 of them. What am I going to do? I got my kids grew up, and now I have
Now you have
all these
yeah.
fur
babies in the
kids.
background. My fur kids. Yes.
It's fine.
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
what's how interesting would life be without just a little bit of chaos, right?
Oh, for sure. It would be so dull and boring, really.
I'm going to just say I welcome a little bit of dull and boring right now, right about now. I'm
You need
looking
those
forward.
times. You need peaks and valleys in
Yeah.
life, and
Yes.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
okay. I've learned to appreciate those over the years.
Yeah, I'm gonna take off tomorrow and go for a little road trip. Just me and my one dog, my puppy. Well, she's not a puppy anymore, but she's my baby girl. And I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go see my friends, and my friend is at work for 2 days, and she's like, "Just come and enjoy our little slice of paradise." And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do that. Just leave everything behind for a couple of days. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's
So
fun. That's nice.
It is nice to have like a little bit of a mental break. And you were again recently out on the West Coast as well, I believe. Did you guys do a cruise or?
We did.
Yeah.
It was our first cruise ever for like, and it was me and my husband and our 3 kids. So it was our first family cruise. My parents are avid cruisers. They cruise all the time and have been wanting us to do a big family one. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I have a little bit of claustrophobia that I've been dealing with treating actually too, because it was starting to get quite intrusive. And so a part of my phobia was just being, it's not so much in a tight space, although those are definitely a trigger, but it was also just not having an escape, like, some way out of something. And to me, a cruise ship is just a giant box where I have no way off. And so, anyway, dealing with the claustrophobia certainly helped with doing that. And it was really, quite honestly, the best way I think to see Alaska. Like it was just, we did a round trip up the Inside Passage. So we went all the way up to Juneau and Glacier Bay and Skagway and Ketchikan, and just really had a wonderful time. And it was great, so beautiful, like so much of what makes really, I mean, I know it was Alaska in the US, but so much of that was Canadian landscape too, right? Like up the coast of BC. And it's just, it's so beautiful. We really need to appreciate more sort of the country that we have and the sites that are there. And then with the glaciers in particular, like they're receding so fast, right? If you don't kind of see them now, they may not be there, may not be anywhere near as spectacular as they are now. So anyway, it was a great opportunity for us to go, and we all had a good time, and only no seasickness for a couple of the kids, and otherwise we were okay. So
good. So will there be more cruising in your future?
Maybe, I don't know. I think we weren't sold on cruising per se. Like quite honestly, if we're gonna do like say the Caribbean, I'd rather just pick a resort and have some margaritas.
Right?
And sit on the beach.
I'll come with you, okay?
Right? Like
Let's do that.
We're in.
Yeah. Maybe the Mediterranean or something like that, where, going from place to place is part of the goal. Then that might be a nice way of seeing, I don't know, say the Greek islands or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
Oh, awesome.
Well, we always start our show by asking each other what we have been baking. So what have you been baking?
So I obviously knew this was coming, and I was like, I need to bake things. And then I'm like, I don't really have plans to bake anything. And then, so of course, in the last week, I made sourdough. We did pizza this week, which was its own experiment. I don't know. It was my first batch of pizza. We have a little pizza oven. It's the first time I took it out this year. It's just a disaster. I don't know. And then,
your sourdough looked beautiful.
Moments, where you have to remember how to do something anyway. So, but then it was actually my middle son's birthday yesterday. So, but he picked, so I'm like, what do you want to do? And he's like, oh, I just want to take, I want my friends and best friend and his girlfriend, and let's go to a buffet, like a Chinese buffet that we have here. And, I'm like, okay. I mean, and like teenage boy, right? Like there's nothing that pleases his heart more than an all-you-can-eat buffet. And so we talked about it on the weekend. And so I didn't really think about a cake or anything because we're going to an all-you-can-eat buffet on a weekday. And then on Tuesday or the day before his birthday, I was like, do you want me to make a cake? Do you want something? And he's like, yeah, why don't you make a carrot cake? And I was like, well, okay. I don't even know if I had ingredients, but I had exactly enough carrots. And I'm like, okay, so I don't know. I whipped it up, and I think I finally conquered cream cheese icing, which is the most difficult thing to work with, I feel like.
Soft.
It's so soft, and just getting it the right ratio where it's just not collapsing or too soft. And it was hot yesterday. But his friends came over, we cut the cake, and no one wanted to eat any because we're about to go to this buffet. And then after the buffet, no one wanted any when we got home.
So you got good pictures, right?
You got good pictures. And today everyone's enjoying the cake. So I'm like,
and you had something to tell us about. So that worked.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Like, at least I can check that box.
That's awesome. Carrot cake is one of my favorite cakes as well. So are you?
Oh, here we go. Uh-oh,
I'm
you're
ready.
gonna
I'm
get
ready.
the question now.
Are
She
you
asked me this question yesterday and she
I
got
did.
really mad at my
I did.
answer.
I didn't get mad. I was disappointed.
I was going.
So, are you a carrot cake purist? Is it just like purely carrots in your cake, or do you add in like pineapple and nuts and coconut and applesauce and kitchen sink?
So I add nuts because I love carrot cake and nuts of really any kind, but I did walnuts yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
But no pineapple, no coconut. Like it's just otherwise and definitely no raisins.
Good. Notice I didn't even ask you about the raisins because
My husband he loves raisins. So oatmeal cookies are his favorite. Rice pudding with, at this buffet, they had little rice pudding cups. And he's like, did you have the rice pudding? I'm like, no. He's like, there's raisins.
then that's why I didn't have the rice pudding.
That's right. I'm going to run that risk.
That's hilarious.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
All right.
Very
That's
cool.
fine. Whatever. Carrot cake purists. But I wouldn't put nuts in my carrot cake. I wouldn't put raisins in, that's for sure. But I put pineapple in mine. And I got the frowny face for that. But
Even the dogs.
they don't like pineapple.
Well, I don't. Do you taste the pineapple, or is it like the carrots and it just adds moisture?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See? I think she muted herself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. I think for me, I'd be worried. I actually don't have a sweet tooth, and so anything to me adding pineapple would just make it what I think is already a sweet cake like even sweeter. So yeah, I was definitely not going to do that. Whereas nuts, I think, take away from some of that sweetness, add a little bit more savoriness, and the cream cheese frosting I did was a brown butter cream cheese frosting. So again, takes away some of the
such perfect timing. We were literally just talking about brown butter
and
right before you came.
So beautiful.
I mean, yes, brown butter. Love it.
It is amazing. The pineapple that I add, I was just gonna say the pineapple before they went nuts because my beautiful son came home. Nice hair. My beautiful son came home.
Hey, Bryn.
The pineapple that Christina says hi.
Well, I'll say hi too then.
Oh, and Candice says hi. What? They're being very loud. Yeah, but I can edit. You know how much time I spend editing these. That's all right. We will be editing this. Thank you for taking them outside. You're so wonderful. Yeah, I was debating whether I should leave them outside or I thought they would bark at things more. So I trapped them inside, which didn't work either. So when I put pineapple in my carrot cake, I think that Cristina was thinking it would be chunks of pineapple in there. Or she just doesn't like it at all. Anyway, I like blend it down and then I really drain it really well so that you're not having like a goopy cake. But it does add a lot of moisture and I don't taste it at all. I don't think anybody tastes it in there. So I don't know. But we are going to have a carrot cake off. We're going to have
We've just added that to the list of offs that we're going to do.
Yep.
Of like bake-offs of.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Good. Yeah. But
so Candice,
I was going to say the walnuts, though, I could totally get behind because it gives you extra texture as well. If I'm going to do anything with walnuts, though, I'll put it in like the filling. So I'll add the crunch layer, not necessarily in the cake itself, but I'll actually put it into the filling so they stand out even a little bit more, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I put them in. I put them in the cake. I didn't put any in the layers, but I did like a little sort of a praline. Around the edges and around the top. But I don't know if I have an objection. I think I grew up. So okay, maybe I'm preempting a conversation, but anyway, around raisins and baking, right? I grew up with my mom's fruitcake. So like at Christmas, like in our tradition, so I'm Goan by background, and in Goa, it's traditional that you'll bring like a sweet tray around. So when people come over at Christmas, or when you go somewhere, you bring a little plate of like an assortment of treats and such. And most and usually traditional things would be things like fruitcake, and there's a bunch of other small things, but everyone has a fruitcake. And so like there's like a little bit, oh, her fruitcake isn't that dark, or her fruitcake has, there's like a little bit of judginess
Competition.
around everyone's
Yeah, yeah.
fruitcake. Yeah. And my mom always put nuts in hers. So I really love that texture of a little bit of a crunch in the cake, because I think because I don't like things super sweet, and
Mhm.
I kind of gave you offset something. It's also the only baked good, like sweet baked good, that I'll have with raisins, because it has raisins and currants, and that's just
Right.
the
Well, fruit
Yeah.
tradition of
cake.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. So you're from Goa, which is really cool. Now, do you speak Portuguese?
I don't.
Oh.
So I was born in Tanzania in East Africa, and my parents were born in Tanzania, but they're all the grandparents were born in Goa, and there was a migration that happened. So my mom can speak. So the local language in our local dialect in Goa is called Konkani, and Konkani is half Hindi, half Portuguese.
Oh.
So she can
Wow.
understand, like she can, if someone's speaking Portuguese near her, she'll pick up some of the words just because it's a little bit of a hybrid of the language, but she couldn't really speak Portuguese
Mm.
or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually Portuguese. My parents, I actually was born in Portugal, and I know the history with Goa and Portuguese settlers at some point. So yeah, so I was just curious to see if you did. So that's kind of cool. I'd never heard of that the blended language.
Like
Yeah,
Afrikaans,
That's
kind of.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, and so, and like even our my maiden name is Parado, which is Portuguese based. And if you look at, I'm planning my parents' 50th wedding anniversary parties at the end of the summer.
Oh,
And if
wow.
you look at our guest list, it's like Fernandes, Rodrigues, like Diaz, like all these Portuguese names, but they're all going. So
that's so cool. That is so amazing. Cool.
She's waiting
And
to see if I'm going to interrupt. It's like, who's going to ask the next question? Well,
go
I
ahead, Lisa.
was going to ask Candice how you got started in baking.
it's really thanks to my mom. I would say, I mean, I think growing up, I didn't cook, I didn't bake really anything. And then I got to university and needed to do something and other than eat Mr. Noodles and rice and pony, which was my steady diet for most of first year. And so kind of got into cooking that way. Still not really baking. I mean, I did picked up the odd thing. Like I had a pretty good apple pie recipe that I still use. I have that cookbook that I got way back then and still use it for my apple pie. Um, but not really anything too serious. And then after I'd had kids, so growing up, my mom made all our birthday cakes. So she would do like all those star tip, from the 80s, like that
Yeah.
piping and
Yeah.
like whatever, Donald Ducks and Mickey Mouse and all that kind of
Wow.
that stuff, all those character cakes she would do. And so I grew up with that. And so when I had kids, I'm like, okay, mom, you're going to make their birthday cakes, right? It was just like, uh, just continue the tradition. And that was fine until my oldest turned 3. And then my mom's like, well, we're going on vacation. And I'm like, what do you mean you're going on vacation? There's a birthday party in 2 weeks. Like who's going
And
to
you,
make the cake? And so she's like, here's all the stuff, go ahead. And so I made my oldest cake, and I mean, it was amateur at best, nothing to kind of write home about, but I was hooked actually on. I loved that process of decorating the cake and figuring out, how to make. I think it was a sea themed cake, so like how to turn
Oh,
a
yeah.
Smartie into an oyster or whatever. Just like these little things that are fun to play around with, and yeah, it started from there with baking of cakes and cake more. I'll say more cake decorating,
mhm.
Hmm.
and then over time was like, well, maybe I won't do a box cake. Maybe I'll try my own cake, and then I really started to get into it. Got into fondant and really playing with like just really enjoying it and just upping that level of of completion so that it just looked really professional. And I was and then yeah, it was just really something I got into. And then along the way picking up things like cookies and brownies, but it was always what I'd call like mom stuff, right? Like stuff you'll take to the bake sale, or
Yeah.
if it's not done in 20 minutes,
Yeah,
I'm not doing it. Right? Other than the cakes. And then I started to watch, or I don't know, I felt like I had this discovery one day, and I saw an episode of the Great British Bake Off. And then I was like, what is this? How have I not seen this?
Yeah.
And like, had never binge watched anything in my entire life, but I binge watched like as many of those seasons as I could find.
Yeah.
Completely hooked, like
Mhm.
hook, line, and sinker on Bake Off. Like, and then when it came to Canada, like so then it encourages you to, I mean, so like you see things and you see them made and you're like, oh, I could never do this. And then you try it, and you start to expand your repertoire that way, right? And so that was really kind of how I went from sort of like basic stuff,
Mom baker.
a little bit more, more. And not knocking the mom bakers, like there is
No.
great home baking
Yeah.
out there. There's very, people say to me now, like, oh, I don't want to bake for you. I'm like, please, please bake for me.
Right?
I love your baking. But it's just sort of that extra effort and time and research you have to do things now, or you don't have to, but that you enjoy putting
Yeah.
into.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. What is it about that show that
Mhm.
there's just something magical about it, right?
Yeah, like you hear the theme, like even on Instagram, I'll hear, it's not even the show, but someone will put the music onto their
And
reel,
you're
and
like,
I'm like, I have to watch it because they've used the theme song, and it's
Yeah.
just so it evokes such a feeling of um like just, I don't know, bliss, or like
Comfort.
a happy place, right? It
yeah.
really
Yeah.
is a happy place for me, and where I can just forget about everything else, focus on this, have my family sit down with me and watch it,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because I don't have to worry about sort of the content. I mean, not that I would ever get too picky about that, but it's just a nice, wholesome thing to
Mhm.
do, and to just watch and then see how the bakers interact with each other, and the
Mhm.
judges, the
Yeah.
host. Like, it's just a very nice. It's just nice. It's
Nice.
hard to find nice anymore, right?
Especially in reality TV.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's one of the best things about it. And of course, its Canadian counterpart, the whole feeling of, like I have said before, those cooperative games that you would give your kids to play, so that there's not like one winner at the end, even though there is one winner at the end of the
Yeah.
baking show. It's still this feeling of like you're all working together to
Mhm.
help each other. Like Loic was telling us all kinds of stories about the things that he was planning with his bakes, and how all you guys just like kind of lifted him up and helped, and everybody was being so encouraging of each other. And
Yeah.
that was just wonderful to hear. You all just genuinely wanted each other to do well,
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
see each other succeed.
It's
Yeah.
like
That's the
it
best
takes
part
a
about it.
village. It takes a village, right? And
Absolutely. Like during the I think it was bread week, we had to do a bun tower, and I was struggling to get a tower. Like I'm like, I just didn't have the tower. I had the concept. I knew what I was going to bake, but I'm like, I have nothing to put this on. And
Mhm.
it was like, I think maybe 2 days before we were going to film, and we were bouncing around ideas, and I'm like, oh, it's a picnic theme. And so we started to check on Amazon to see what, I don't know, I think Andrew suggested, oh, why don't you get a picnic table? And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay. I'm like, am I going to find a picnic table? So on Amazon, I looked for like small picnic table, and you either get like a child size picnic table, which was really too big for the set.
Yeah.
Or apparently there's like squirrel feeders where you can have like, so they're little tiny picnic
oh,
tables and there's like just pictures of Amazon. I'm like, I don't know who feeds their squirrels at a little tiny picnic table, but that's very adorable.
It's adorable.
obviously people do. It's on Amazon. And if people didn't know they needed it when they see it on Amazon, then they go, I need that. So place order, add to
But
cart.
I'm like, I also can't fit 24 buns on it. So I'm like, what am I going to do? And Loic's like, I'll build it for you. And I'm like, what are you
Oh,
talking about? You're going to build it for me. And we went to Home Depot. He borrowed some tools from set, and took time out of his practice time to build me something that I needed.
Wow.
And it was just like, I mean, that was the moment he was forever a part of my heart and my family, right? Like
yeah.
for that. But that was we saw that time and time again certainly across our whole season. And
Mm-hmm.
we're talking like when you walk into the tent, what you're hoping for obviously is like a result, related to your baking. But in the back of your mind, what you're really hoping for is to also walk out with this family that you see, that you think you see when you're on TV, and you're really hoping that it's real, like in that camaraderie and that love and friendship that you see is like something that's not just, a producer's cut of, or a director's cut of the show. And we were like so lucky that it was true for us. And from what I've seen, like of the, I've met bakers from other seasons now as well, like that friendship, it really holds true. It really is sort of the grand prize out of everything.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And it seems to transcend not only in your own season, but through other seasons as well. Like there are so many different friendships from like all the seasons combined. Like there just seems to be a real wonderful group of bakers that, yeah, there's just so much love between all of you. And I think that's, again, part of the magic of watching the show. And I think one of the real reasons why Lisa and I have both wanted to be on the show as well is for that exact bit. Like you said, you hope like you're going to leave with this family. And that's certainly what we're hoping to feel one day.
Yeah. Just to
if we're lucky enough. Yeah.
I'm getting emotional, and I'm like, whoa, that's the first time I've gotten emotional about this in a while. Like sitting here and hearing you talking about walking into the tent, and I got really choked up because I was imagining it, and I was like, I still really want that. Like, I still really want that.
Both of you to have that opportunity. And because although I also feel like you guys are getting some of that, like I feel like, you're part of the baking family, like both of you have gotten, even prior to like meeting you in February, just from interactions and stuff
online and stuff.
And it's you're for me, you two are as synonymous with like baking show as any of my castmates, right? So, and I think that's but that's also the beauty of this show and the community that has been built around it, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Lisa and I met to begin with.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, still choked up. Yeah. More choked up.
All right, I'll take the next question then. You can compose yourself, Lisa. It's all good. It's all good. You're good. You're good. Breathe.
I can't watch people cry and then not cry. So
yeah, I know, right? Please don't, because then we're all going to be like.
That's true.
So what brought you then? Obviously, your love for Bake Off and Great Canadian Baking Show. Tell us about your journey getting on the show. What made you apply to begin with?
Yeah, I never thought I would. It never even entered my mind that I would ever like to even audition. Never did. And I think for would have been season 3. So when the season 4 auditions opened, I think applications opened, a friend of mine messaged me on Facebook and she's like, you should audition. And I was like, you are out of your mind. I'm not, I don't have anywhere. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I don't do chocolate. I don't laminate dough. Like, here all the things. I don't do bread. Cause at that point I wasn't doing any bread. And I'm like, you're crazy. Slightly flattered, obviously, but no, I'm like, this is nuts. And then I think as season 4 was airing, you just watch it a little bit more. I guess it would have been season 3 airing, and so you watch a little bit more closely to think, maybe
could I do that?
Maybe, and then so the next season came around. Yeah, it must have been for season 5. So the applications open for 5, and my friend messaged me again, and she was like, "You should audition," and I was like, "Maybe," and then I did it, and because I think what had happened is that was also the year of COVID, so that was 2019, 2020, right, started 2020, and I figured out bread. Like I had made bread before and stuff like that, but it was never, I don't know, it was never very good, to be honest. And we had a bread maker for a long time, and that was what made our bread. And that was better than what I was making by hand. So I'm like, of course I'll use the bread maker. But I started sourdough with, like everybody else, I guess, with the pandemic, and really, enjoyed it. I think I really kind of got over my fear of like yeast and how to make a lovely loaf of bread. And that was kind of a big one, right? Like I think chocolate, laminated pastry, like other than like cakes and cookies and sort of that stuff, like those are the other sort of big categories
Yeah.
of baking that you kind of need to have some kind of competence in, I
Yeah.
think, to do well, right? And so I still didn't have chocolate, but I at least I think I tried a little bit of lamination and definitely got over bread. I'm like maybe. So then I applied and I it's an online application and honestly I mean you all know, but like it's a fun application. Like there's a as a baker, I maybe and for someone who doesn't bake, it's probably torture. But for me, I really enjoyed filling out the application and thinking about, because they ask all sorts of questions like, how did you start baking and what's your favorite thing to bake and what are you known for? What's your signature? What do you like about the show? So I just had fun with the application. I did a video. I don't know. I wrote down a couple of bullet points, but I'm like, I said it and I just sent it in and really, really didn't expect a response. And I think within 48 hours, I got a call back, and I was like, I was so shocked, yeah, I had to call back, and then went through the process all the way through to the video audition. And so that was the first year that they had done video auditions
Yeah.
because of COVID. And it was just, I think for me, it was super special because it was, it was such a dark time in our world. It was such a dark time in my household, at least from just like, because I had these three kids, like all three kids were home at that point, and like trying to keep them occupied during the day, paying attention to school. Like it was just a complete nightmare. And so, and to have this moment sort of out of time, like just
Yeah.
to do the audition and to go through that process and just think about something that was not like work or the
Something just for you.
right? And
Yeah.
survival, because at that point I was like, who goes out for groceries and how do I sew a mask? I'm like, I'm a terrible sewer. I made masks like, and so to just do something just so out of the norm for that period of time and focus on it. And,
Yeah.
I was talking to my best friend about it and my family got involved. So it wasn't just me. It was like sort of my circle around me got excited about something and focused on something other than this big bad disease that was
Yeah.
hurting so many people. And so it was great to just do that. And even though, so obviously I didn't make it that year, um, I was just grateful. I was just grateful for the experience and having gotten to do that. And I enjoyed it. Like I had fun with it. And so I obviously kept applying, and then finally got in for season 7.
So
Three times.
that's awesome. And so how did that feel when you actually finally got that call from the producers saying, Candice, we want you to be in that tent this season?
Yeah, it was like this moment of like disbelief, like finally, like is it really my chance? Like is this for real? And also pinch me.
Yeah. And oh
Yeah,
no, now what do I have to learn? What do I have to do?
yeah. And
What
now
do
it's
I
like,
have to
oh my
practice?
God, how do I organize my life to get this done?
Oh, but
Right.
so
So
amazing.
yeah.
Oh,
So
fun.
amazing. So how has it changed your life then, aside from the community, aside from the people recognizing you on the street and, aside from having to perfect some different baking skills, how has your life changed since the baking show?
I mean, I don't know that it like my day-to-day life has changed too much. I think what's oddly beneficial is that I almost have permission now to be a baker. Whereas
Yeah.
like I'm a very so my in my sort of career I'm a partner at an IT consulting firm, and so it's very uber professional and very straight laced and can be very stressful at times. But like all of my colleagues obviously know, and people on my team know, and many of my clients know that I was on the show, and so it's so I can talk about baking without having to explain why I'm talking about baking. So like people at least know the context, like that I'm not just, I don't know, not just, but like that it's something I do take very seriously, and that
Yes.
I do at a higher with a higher degree of seriousness maybe than most people. And so it's been nice to kind of have that freedom to talk about something that's a passion that isn't work related or isn't like sort of business focused. As
Mhm.
you know, I
Yeah.
read such and such a journal the other day. I'm like, oh. I didn't read a journal. I read the recipe book. I listened to a podcast on baking.
Sounds good to me.
Works for us.
Yep. Quite happy with that
So yeah,
situation.
so it's been great to have that sort of permission to do it. And then how else has it changed? I think for interesting, also kind of work and even family related, but it's nice to be an example of someone who can actually give in to their passions for for whatever amount of time it is.
Mhm.
And certainly from a work perspective, with work life balance, we talk about that a lot. And
Mhm.
to be able to devote time to something so exclusively is a gift, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
we talk about the people and being in the tent, and obviously like that's its own dream come true. But that aside, like getting to spend that amount of time, not worried about my family because my husband, I'm not there. My husband's taking care of the kids, and not worrying about work because I had to like step back
Yeah.
completely from work, to 100% of your time devote to a single thing
Mhm.
That you love.
that you love for weeks on end. Like
Yeah.
that is its own minor miracle that could happen, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And
As a
life goes
mom,
on
as a
around it.
professional, yeah, 100%. Those
Yeah,
those are things you don't get the opportunity to spend time just focusing on something solely for yourself and
yeah.
to share it with a whole bunch of other people who have the same passion for it that you do.
Exactly. And when you talk about, like, you'll hear from bakers, oh, I learned so much over the course, and you think, well, it's 8 episodes. How much can you learn? It's because you're actually like only doing that thing and
Yeah.
only focusing on the repetition and
Mhm.
trying it again and trying it again, but then also getting input from other fantastic super knowledgeable bakers,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
even if people are relatively new, like I think Camila would say she was sort of a newish baker, but so much around chocolate I learned from her. Resilience, right?
Yeah.
Loic, he also will say that he's only been, he'd been auditioning for a while, but he
Mhm.
doesn't sort of focus 100% on baking all the time. And but for him, just things like when you listen to him talk, you take in so much because he does
He's a
have
teacher.
experience doing certain things. And obviously, he was a winner, so like,
Yeah.
but it's you take in a little bit from everybody, and that knowledge really helps add to your personal arsenal that you can take into the tent.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what did you tell those closest around you what you were doing for 8 weeks?
I told, I it's odd because I'm pretty open book at work. It's kind of it's kind of my personality. I'm pretty open, and so to say you're just gonna disappear, it just doesn't ring true for me, right? And
Mhm.
and people had known I was auditioning,
Mm.
so I
Yeah.
had to really say, I don't know. I made up some excuse about my parents needing some help with some legal stuff, and I didn't know how long it was going to take, and that I might need to travel with them like last minute. To I think I made up something about them having a property in like India that they needed. My parents own property in India, like who knows that,
They
right?
didn't know that.
And yeah, so like work people
Totally.
don't know that, so that's what the work people got, and then the home people just got like, oh, she's traveling for work, and so like it
Mm.
was kind of a little bit of having to balance out the lies, and then when you come back, you're like,
You feel like you're like, "Oh, did anybody know what was going on?" Right?
well, and part of it is because you don't know how long you're going to be gone. Not,
Mhm.
I think if you knew you were gone for 6 weeks or you knew you would be gone for 2 weeks, it's easy to figure out something. But when
Yeah.
it's like, I might see you next week, no, I
Yeah.
might not see you till next month,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Or it could be a couple of
it's a
months
little
like
bit
your
harder.
case. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
We
And then
yeah.
you're away from your family that entire time as well. What was it like to see them? You just finished your bakes in that tent, the final bakes, and you come out of that tent and your family's there. What was that like?
It was it was really amazing. I think it was just there was a sense of relief. I think not that it was at an end, because I was super sad about it coming just to a close, just
Mhm.
that sort of magical time coming to an end. But it just finally to be able to share everything, right?
Yeah.
And to have them sort of see and physically be a part of sort of that atmosphere, and to get to experience a little bit of it themselves rather than just through me telling them what was happening, right? And for the most part, I even during like the season, you're allowed to talk to your family. You can't see them physically, but you could FaceTime um, or talk and call. And so I was obviously talking to people regularly, but I wasn't giving a lot of details about the episodes because I wanted them to also experience it. So like my roll cake, my roll cake in episode 1 was not the best. It was not my ideal outcome for that. And so
Bolo de Rolo? Is that what it
no, it
or
was
which one
the
was it?
patterned roll
Oh,
cake.
yes, the
Oh,
pattern roll.
yes.
Cake week. It
Yeah.
was the very first thing, the first bake in the tent, and
Oh, yeah.
it was awful. It was squishy, and it was my ganache broke, and it was just the worst thing. And but we went to there was a premiere party in Toronto, and like Heather flew in for it. So I think there was me, Heather, Andrew, and Cami were there, and then other bakers had come in. So like Meng Ling was there, and Steve Levitt, and who was there? A few other bakers as well had come, and so anyway, but we're sitting there with and I had friends and family coming in, and Andrew was the same way, and so everyone's in the audience, and where we happened to get seats was right behind most of my friends and family. I was in the row right behind them. And so then they put on screen like me rolling this cake, and it's just squishing out everywhere. It was horrible. And there's this like gasp in the audience, like, and I was just cracking up. It was just the funniest thing because I at least knew what the outcome was, and all these people are so concerned for me, and I could see my family like looking at each other, like, oh my god, did she like get eliminated? And she just went away for 5 more weeks for fun. Oh my god, it was the funniest thing. And then when I won that technical, it was just like, oh, like a little bit, sigh
A
of
little bit
relief
of
from
breathing room.
everyone.
Yeah.
Seeing everyone, it was worth it holding back some of those details just to get that live experience with everyone in the theater. So it was great.
And those authentic reactions from your family and friends too. So, that's so sweet that they were so worried for you as well, right? So
yeah, well, it was great because it was actually the whole theater. Because I think, and that happened for any time like something went poorly for somebody on the show. Like it was like this collective like breath and sigh and shouts of joy and clapping, and it was just to experience that in like a group of, I don't know, 200 or 300 people that were in the theater all at the same time. And it really actually brought home how great the show is and how many fans of the show there really are. And because I mean, even amongst us 4 in the audience, it wasn't our whole family, right? These are really just fans of the show who had come out. So it was
that's
great.
so cool. Yeah, and it's so nice that there are those opportunities for those fans to be able to come out and cheer you on and take in that experience with all of you as well.
Yeah, I think it was the first time they might have done it, I guess, pre-COVID, but or something similar. But it was the first time since COVID that they had been able to do something like that. So like Anne and Alan were on stage, and Colin was the host, and so it was really nice. And a lot of the team, the production team, were there. So
nice.
It was great to see everyone again, and because at that point it had been 3 months probably since we had seen everyone. So
and that must be a really strange sort of in between time when you've come back. You can't tell anybody that what you've been doing, how far you got, and you just have to wait until they announce it and show that little video of you being told you're on the show, and then all of a sudden I bet it was a lot of messages that you were getting from people.
It was great.
No kidding.
Big relief to also like confess properly to everybody about, not just because you perpetuate the lie right through the remainder of the summer, and so it was good to get that off chest.
I bet. And if you have any of those friends that are just like, they just are so much more inquisitive, and they're like, really? So where's the property? Where's your parents' property in India? Whereabouts?
Exactly. You're like, I don't know. It's just some place I just followed. I don't know.
Just as vague as possible.
Yeah, but
Did
there were
you know
also
that you can buy property in Scotland? I bought some for my husband. I bought him 1 square foot of land in Scotland, and he has this certificate
is
that
he a
says that
laird?
he's
Is
the
he a
laird of
laird
that
of
one square
square
foot.
5
Can you
square
do the
inches?
same thing in India?
Probably, I don't know.
I mean, that would have been a great cover story.
And legit, here's our land
Our
title,
deed.
our deed. Oh,
Oh wow.
that is so
We
cool.
You did really such a beautiful job in the show. It was so lovely to watch. I
Hmm.
was saying to Christina, because I had known you from a Facebook group, I think, or Instagram or something. There was, different things that I had seen you very active in, and we had touched base a couple of times just very casually. And so then to see that you were on the show was like, okay, that's somebody that I know, that was very exciting. And I think you tend to follow a little bit more closely. You want the
Hmm.
people that you know to do well, and you did do really well. Like winning that first technical must have felt just amazing after what happened with your
Especially the
roll
I
roll
cake.
mean, I was
cake.
crushed. I was crushed after the roll cake. I'm like, I can't believe I'm going to be the first one to go home, like, on something that I've done that roll cake for a very similar
Mm.
one, like probably half a dozen times prior to that. And so for it to go so sideways, I was like, oh, I can't believe it.
Murphy's
So
Law.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, winning that technical was, I mean, it was just I needed it from just forget about like the show. I needed
Hmm.
it to feel like I
yeah,
could do it. Right.
yeah,
So.
for
Well,
sure.
you certainly did do it. And then you continued to do it until the actual finale, which was incredible. And yeah, like Lisa said, it was just such a joy watching you and bringing all that love, your family love, into your bakes as well. They were a big theme of a lot of the things that you did bake during the show. Were those bakes even that extra, more special? I guess all of them are great, but was there any bake in particular that really meant a lot for you?
I think it was Bread Week, probably for sure, because it was so much of my growing up, and it was really an homage to my community, like my cultural community. Like so many of the, like if people stop me in the street, high likelihood they're probably East Indian descent, and so they'll stop me, and quite honestly, I'm like, "Are you stopping me because you're a client, because of the show, or because you know my mom?" Like, I'm not sure which of the
One
three
of
it
those
is
three things.
sometimes. So I try not to assume that it's the show, but eventually we get there, and so but it meant a lot to a lot of people to see the culture represented,
Hmm.
and then for me it was really like when you talk about like your mom's baking or like the food you grew up with, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of that always centers around the baking of those special occasions. And like
Hmm.
for us, picnics, like we're a very like Goans are a very lively community. There's always a function, a do, or like the dance or whatever. Like there's always something that's happening in the community, and these picnics are all summer. And so, or even camping, like that food is the stuff that you just take, and you don't go camping like by yourself, like a
Hmm.
family of five.
Yeah,
You go camping with like five other families, and one campsite is the food site, and the other one is where all the tents are, and and like cars go in another one,
yeah.
and that's how we kind of organize. And so, doing that picnic theme and having sort of the buns with the samosa fillings was kind of
Mhm.
just like um just a way for me to like say thank you really to the
Hmm.
community, to my mom for making sure that we were exposed to all of that growing up. Like I mean, I grew up here. I might have been born in Tanzania, but we came here when I was a year and a half.
Hmm.
So I was raised in Toronto, like in Canada, and so it would have been so easy, right, for my uh, for I don't know, the Canadian culture that was around me to kind of overtake,
Hmm.
my life, and my parents really allowed for that to not happen and be exposed to our community and kind of know what our culture was so that I could
Hmm.
Mhm.
carry that forward. So
That's
Yeah,
yeah,
wonderful. Yeah,
that is
it's
so
so
lovely.
important.
Hmm.
So important. I mean, it's wonderful that we do have so many different cultures that come into Canada, and we get to actually experience those cultures and hear about them and learn about them, as opposed to Canadian, meaning something right across the board. So yeah, that's really great that your family continued that with you and gave you those traditions, and then you were able to honor them, because that's what you were doing basically, was honoring their heritage and your heritage, their heritage, traditions,
Exactly.
etc.
And so whenever I could do that in a bake, like that was it was just a great opportunity. And also I think it's really easy to overthink things in the tent, right? And so to fall back on something that is genuinely important to you, I think you'll hear that on most, on any season. Like when there's a baker who's baking something that's close to them, it tends to work out really well, and that's because they're probably baking something that they're familiar with, but because it's so important, they know you're paying sort of that little bit of extra attention to make sure it's right.
Yes.
And that's why it turns out so well. Right?
Yeah, it's really truly baking with so much love and heart and all the memories, and trying to
share it.
Yeah. And that is again, the brilliance of baking as well, is sharing it with people and sharing that love and seeing the feelings that it brings to others, especially people, your culture. And it's so special. And I think that's lovely. I think that it's such a big part of Great Canadian Baking Show, and a lot of the bakers that do go on, is you do see that paying of homage back to their individual cultures, which makes the show even that much more special, when you can see that love and those memories being baked into these beautiful creations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I think maybe it's time to play
this
or that.
Yay, so excited.
Are you ready, Candice?
I am.
Okay.
All right. Take it away, Cristina.
All right. Well, the sign behind Lisa's head says tea or coffee. So we will start there. Tea or coffee, Candice?
Tea. Although I'll say I only had tea for almost my entire life until maybe 10 years ago. And then I started having espresso-based drinks, which I didn't really realize that that's what I liked about it. Like my first Starbucks drink was a latte. And I was like, oh, this isn't bad. I didn't love it as much. My tea is still my default though. But I will now have coffee on occasion.
Great.
Certainly more often than I used to.
And do you do traditional chai? Is that your fallback
for the
tea?
picnics and stuff? Yeah, like so my normal day-to-day tea, quite honestly, is red rose orange pico.
Okay.
Like,
Yay, my favorite.
that's what I have every day, and I love it. I can tell the difference between that one and anyway. So that's normally what I'll drink. I do love a good Earl Grey, and I'm experimenting now, like with different tea manufacturers, distributors. My father-in-law lives in Chilliwack. That's where my husband's family is, and there's a great little tea place there. And so whenever they're coming over, we're visiting, I make sure and I stock up on my tea from there. And that's actually the tea that I drink when I have my special Earl Grey. There's like 5 different kinds of Earl Grey. It's wonderful.
Oh, that's very cool. What's the tea place called?
It's called they changed their name recently. It was Marais, Marais.
Okay.
Marais, I think.
Marais.
Yeah.
I'll definitely check them out. My niece and her family live out there, so I'll be heading out there in a few weeks. So I'm definitely going to pop in. I love tea as well. I always start my day with 1 cup of coffee, maybe 2, and then I switch over to tea.
Yeah, I have to be careful. If I have a coffee in the morning, like that's all. I can't have like a second. If I have a tea, though, I can have a tea in the afternoon, and I'm usually okay.
Yeah.
But I can't do 2 cups of coffee in a day. That was baking show kind of stuff. Like that. Then I was having all the caffeine, and then a Coke at lunch, which I never drink pop anymore. But
yeah,
you need the energy and you need the caffeine boost, I'm sure, in that tent.
I used to be a tea person, and then I went to nursing school, and now it's 8:05. I just finished a cup of coffee, and I would have no problem going and lying down and passing out right now. I don't know what it does to a person to go to nursing school. It's just dangerous.
Yeah. And after I hit 40, maybe even 35, it got the multiple cups of caffeine accumulates in your body over time, and it would just
hits you.
I have to watch out. But
yeah. I wish I had to, I would like to be able to. Anyway, next question: pie or cake?
To eat or bake?
You can answer both.
Yeah, either.
To eat, probably pie. To bake, definitely cake.
Okay. So what kind of pie is your favorite?
Probably apple pie. I
Mm,
do.
classic.
I love apple pie, but what did I made the strawberry rhubarb pie
Yeah.
actually for the first time recently, and I quite enjoyed it. I wasn't actually sure what rhubarb was supposed to taste like. I've had it in things, but because it's in things, like
Yeah.
you're not really sure what you're tasting, right?
Mhm.
Um and yeah, and it was super tart, and
Very
I
tart.
didn't I got it from we buy our vegetables through a farm. It's called a CSA, community supported agriculture. And so we pay the farmer at the beginning of the season. We get what we get. It's always a surprise. It's not a pick and choose thing. And
Love
so
that. Yeah.
That
he
is
showed up with
awesome.
rhubarb one day, and it was like a lot of rhubarb, and like this long, like so 2 feet long, and it was really green. And I was like, oh, I thought it was supposed to be red, but apparently there are green varieties of
Hmm.
rhubarb. So
Okay.
yeah, so it was, but it was really, I think it helped because I don't love super sweet, and so
Hmm.
tartness offset the strawberries, and I love strawberry, and so it was pretty good. So I might be a convert to strawberry rhubarb. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a pretty good one. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's a toss up between apple and strawberry rhubarb for me also. So, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Whisk or wireless mouse because of your IT background.
She's like, what a weird question.
What's your favorite tool? Whisk
My
or
favorite tool.
wireless mouse?
Well, the wireless mouse, just because that's 90% of what I do in the day. And I forgot my mouse. Actually, I went into our office today and I forgot my mouse at home, and I was like, oh my God, I could not navigate anything. 5 seconds to get off mute, and everyone's like, "Are you on mute?" I'm like, "I know I'm on mute." It
I'm
just
trying to get there. I forgot my mouse.
It's Prime Day. I ordered one off of Amazon
Yep.
yesterday. So I have a mouse in every corner of my house.
That's hilarious.
Of the electronic sort. And whisks, to be honest, I try and do as much with the stand mixer as
Mhm.
possible. So
Mm.
Fair
it's
enough.
the whisk attachment I would
Yep.
use
Whisk.
more than a hand whisk. Yeah.
All
Cool.
right. All right. And along that same line, baking sheets or spreadsheets?
Oh God, baking sheets.
She's like, don't give me spreadsheets, please. That was a pretty definitive answer there.
Well, it's good because you have actually with the so wireless mouse. So you do, your IT thing. Just it came out, and then you're still a baker, so you're all
Yeah,
Still,
good.
definitely. You're a
That's
baker.
awesome.
We know that.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Sweet or savory? I have a feeling
savory.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have a huge sweet tooth, and then and I do like like I'm if you sweet or salty, I'm salty all day, right? Like so even
Yeah.
the desserts that I like, when we actually talk about raisins and desserts, right?
Yeah.
Like it's too sweet. Actually, I find
Yeah.
when you add the raisins or any of the fruits to stuff. So and that's why I think I like nuts or caramel
Hmm.
and chocolate. Like just all of that just helps tone. I mean, caramel's sweet, but at least it's got that burnt, not burnt, but the
Yep.
caramelization, right? It
Yeah.
it adds a different depth to it.
Yeah. And
And
especially if you
especially
add
if
the
it's a
sea
salted.
salt.
Yeah, and the sea salt, yeah.
Sea salt. A must.
Yes, definitely. All right. American buttercream or a meringue based buttercream?
Meringue base, just meringue is what I use. Yeah.
Swiss meringue.
I
Okay.
Nice.
just I grew up like my first cakes were all American buttercream. Like that's what my mom did. We had the Wilton guide. The Wilton guide only has American buttercream in
Yeah.
there, and it's great. Like I mean, it definitely has its purposes. It's great for piping and
Hmm.
flowers and stuff like that. But it's just too sweet, like for me. And then when I first did my first cake was just meringue, I was like, what? How did it take me so long to figure this out?
Yeah. Fair
And
enough.
yeah, I
Yeah.
love it.
You should listen to our next episode. It'll be out by the time obviously this one airs, but with Tat FB, the cake tunist,
Mhm.
she gave us quite an interesting baking scrap about meringue,
Hmm.
meringue frosting. So listen for that
Oh,
one because
Hmm.
I
I'm
will
thinking
listen.
that it might be a game changer for us.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you tried it yet,
I
Christina?
have not. Have you? I'm dying to try it.
I'm
So,
dying to try
Oh,
it
I'm
too.
excited.
Yeah,
I've already
it'll be
taken down like notes of like I think I saw I listened to the one with Kathy today and I'm like, keep gun, add to cart.
yeah.
exactly. I know.
Especially
Game
you got it
changer
just
on
in
that
time
one.
for the Prime days.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
perfection.
Are you doing chocolate bonbons? Did you get into that?
Yeah, I started. I've only done a
Danger.
couple of trays so far. I know. And yeah, anyway, an airbrush and compressor might be in my cart also.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got
Well,
one.
at least you
Actually,
know.
I bought an airbrush like I don't know how long ago, like months ago. It's still in the box. I am so afraid to
Yeah.
use it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think for me, it's finding the like I like to buy the tools, but I still only have like so much time, and
Mm,
there's so much you want to do, and you can't perfect everything when you're working full time, right?
yeah.
And so I think finding that those times, right? But my parents' anniversary party is going to be an
Mm,
excuse for me to bake a lot of stuff,
there you go.
and I also need to like the airbrush. I think will help me get through a bunch of cookies a little bit faster. So
Yeah,
I
makes
think
total
when you
sense.
getting an airbrush, my husband, of course, he's a general contractor, and he has a whole bunch of stuff, but he also can source a bunch of stuff, like not from a baking store, but he'll be like, here's an actual airbrush for you. And I'm like, thank you. I have no idea how to use this.
yeah,
And when I tried to use it, I realized that I really needed like one of those big boxes to catch all the extra
yeah,
airbrush stuff that's flying around. So
yeah,
Yeah,
that it was fun to try, but also scary because you're like pushing down a little tiny bit and pushing it forward a little tiny bit, and it's like, you know,
yeah.
like
Well, I used one on the show for the first time I ever used an airbrush was on the show, and so I'm like literally on set. I'm like, okay, well let's try this out. This
that
and
will
makes
be
for good
faster. And
TV, Candice.
yeah, it sure does. So cool. Chocolate or vanilla?
chocolate, chocolate.
Not so decisive this time.
Yeah, I mean, vanilla is like the most expensive spice in the world, or I mean, other than saffron,
Yeah.
right? Like it, and for a reason. Like it really is the base for everything, right? And so I really appreciate really good vanilla things. I
Hmm.
definitely love vanilla, and sometimes I do feel like vanilla. I do think it tends to be sweeter, like vanilla, say ice cream tends to be sweeter than chocolate, and so
Hmm.
that's why I'll tend to err toward, or not err, but like lean towards chocolate
Yeah,
over vanilla. But yeah, I can go either way, but I'll tend to go for chocolate over vanilla.
Okay,
perfect.
cool.
Macarons or choux?
Uh, to make macaron, to eat choux.
Mm.
What kind of filling do you like in your choux?
Um, I I anything really. Like anything. I love like cream, like so like just a basic sort of whipped cream or mousse or something like that would be
Mhm.
great. Or I did a savory one on the show, and I really
Mhm.
liked the cheese filling was really good.
Yeah,
It's because it's really just eggy bread with like
A really good filling.
really
and
good
the
filling.
sweet
Yeah,
versus savory, like that's kind of for me. And macarons, they're fun to make and they're really pretty,
Yeah.
and I know people enjoy them. I
Mhm.
tend to like I'll eat maybe one in a batch and I'm good, right?
Yeah.
They're sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. They certainly can
Agreed.
be. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
All right. Passion fruit veal crepe cake or Boston cream pie. Two technical
Oh,
challenges that you won, the first one and the last one.
that's hard because I would have. I think. I think before we'd made it, I would have said Boston cream pie, but having made it, I do love a good crepe. Like and it was a pretty good recipe. I might try that one again.
Hmm,
Yeah. It was
perfect.
great. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
I won't do the chocolate color though, just so you know.
Those chocolate collars, they break people down. We've seen a few of those over the years, sadly.
Yeah.
And chocolate in the tent. Like, let's talk about chocolate in the tent. How? With
No,
the
I don't know. Cami did it every week, I think, and she did not candy melts, like nothing like that. Like she did.
Full
chocolate
on tempered
chocolate,
chocolate.
and Heather did a beautiful like chocolate tree on one of her things, and I'm like, I don't know what you people are doing. It's almost impossible not to get the buttercream to melt, and I don't know how they're not like.
Yeah,
I'll say I
So
think
true.
we lucked out a little bit on our season. I mean, it was hot for some of the episodes, but not every episode. So it was some that were a little bit more doable than others.
Ugh.
But yeah, no, it was. I only tempered if required.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can understand that. I don't
Yeah.
know why. I mean, it's an interesting choice to film at that time of year when you're in a tent, that even though, there's some kind of airflow through it, it's never going to be able to be as cool as, a
In the
sound
Yeah,
stage,
studio.
for
Yeah.
example.
yeah.
you know?
I mean, unless they actually have it, say, a chocolate week where you are mandated to sort of temper chocolate, everything else is a choice,
Yeah.
right? And you know what
Fair.
you're getting into, and you know what you can pivot and be prepared to do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess that is a big part of it is making the right choices based on the information of
Yeah.
what you're up against.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you definitely learn from week one through as you go along. Like you get used to the ovens, you get used to the fridge, you get
Hmm.
used to the freezer. It gets a little bit easier in that there's just fewer people
Mm-hmm.
Yes. In the
and
space.
like physically taking up space in the fridges, and the heat from the ovens obviously is less because there's just fewer ovens that are on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it gets easier a little bit, a little bit. But the bakes are also getting more complicated,
Fair.
right? As you progress.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I guess the trick is maybe just getting through week one, because you have to get used to all those different things at the stations, and,
Yeah,
even the physical location of everything. And like Loic said, it's not about who's the best baker in the tent, it's the best baker in that given situation.
yeah,
And yeah, and you're given a lot of different situations, so
yeah. I agree with
kudos.
that. Like it's very agility of all sorts, right? Agility, like physically trying to get around, be super fast. Like Cami and Aloic were so fast, like. And I mean, I think Andrew and I would be in sort of in the same, but we were not so fast. And so like be like looking around, I'm like, how are they in the oven already? And I'm like still like kneading my dough, and so like I was forever running out of time. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm a slow baker, but they were just so fast, and that gave them actually the time that they needed to
Mm.
recover if they made a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes total sense.
Yeah, that must give you just that extra sort of little level of panic when you're like, "Oh, that's where I'm supposed to be by
Oh my
now?"
God, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, like there's, and then you're like, I think I have enough time, and then you're like, I don't have enough time. This is not going to bake. There's going to be some miracle needs to happen.
Or the backup plan to the backup plan to the backup plan.
Yeah, yeah, and it was fine, I think, with the signature and the showstoppers, because you knew what you were baking,
Mhm.
and you could
Yes.
plan accordingly, and you knew what elements you could sacrifice, without affecting the end result or
Yeah.
what have you. But with the technical, there's no time. You don't know. You truly don't know. Like people always ask me, is it really a surprise? I'm like, yeah, it's a surprise. Like you don't know.
Yeah.
And it was.
Well, you did really well on the technicals, so you must have just kind of been like, "All right, I'm focusing on this. I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to do what I need to do."
Yeah,
Well, I
Not
think
going to
yeah.
the
I
look at
think
one,
if you're
Loic,
not,
not going to look at Cammy, not going to see who's
yeah,
going really fast, or was it Heather? It's like,
like if you're not going to be super fast, then you need to rely on just what you know about
the
baking,
yeah.
technical skill. And
then experience helps there.
yeah, and you slayed those actually, because I think you won 3 technicals through
I
the
did,
season, right?
but no star bakers. It was fine.
That's
Yes.
okay. But look, you made it to the end. So Star Baker, who needs Star Baker?
You're
And
you're Star
you know
Baker
what?
Notch,
You
I
won
have no
three
regrets.
technicals.
I have no regrets over the season and how it ended up. And
and you should not.
Lowe 100% deserved to win. Like I just I loved it. I loved it, every moment of it.
That's
Good. I'm
fabulous.
really glad to hear that. All right, here comes the big question. But of course, I already know the answer. So, butter tarts, raisins or no raisins?
No raisin. No raisin.
Oh, well,
Oh my gosh.
a
Yeah.
surprise. Shocker.
Is
Because they're
it?
too sweet on something that's already sweet. And
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it a lot actually, because I don't even like fruits and chocolate. Like
Mm.
I don't
Like
like that combination. Like
chocolate covered strawberries?
so chocolate covered strawberries was sort of my first foray into accepting fruits and chocolate. And I come to realize, to me, it's like two different kinds of sweetness that are competing,
Mm.
right?
Oh,
You got
yeah, okay.
sweetness from the fruit, and then the sweetness from the whatever it else. So the chocolate or the butter tart, like filling or what have you. And it's just,
Mhm.
then it's just too sweet and it's competing. So if it's dark chocolate
Yeah.
and strawberries, I'll much prefer that over milk chocolate and
Okay.
strawberries, because you've got that added
Mhm.
sugar. But with the dark chocolate, the strawberry is what's giving it the sweetness, and so now there's less of a competition
Yeah.
there. And I've realized, like,
Good
kind of
point.
over time, that's kind of where I'm coming from. Like,
Yeah.
I think you asked a question about Neapolitan ice cream to Kathy, and I was like, what didn't who did we fight over the colors? I don't remember. And then I remember thinking, like, what I didn't like, I was like, I was always okay if it was like a little bit of vanilla and the strawberry, or a little bit of the chocolate and the vanilla. But if it was the strawberry and the chocolate, I
Mhm.
didn't like it. And then that's why. It's because those to me, that flavor, just, I didn't like it on my palate.
Yeah.
It's
No,
always interesting when you kind of analyze it and realize, oh, that's
Yeah.
why. And then it
yeah.
makes so much sense for so many other things that you either like or don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And these aren't
absolutely.
normal things to think about, but as a baker.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's all about balance, really, in sweets, right? It's about having the salt and the saltiness and the sweetness, balancing those off, because that's so important. Because there's a lot, yeah. Like if it's just sweet on sweet on sweet, it's not that enjoyable unless you have like this crazy sweet tooth. But it's really about the surprise elements and the crunch factor for me. I love crunchy stuff in anything that I bake.
Yeah.
So just, yeah, having that texture and then having those balances of flavors. And you're so right on the chocolate, especially with fruits. Like, but I find like white chocolate and lemon are actually quite nice, because again, you've got that sweet and sour combination going, or passion fruit and white chocolate, I think
Yeah.
balance
Yeah.
out really nice. Some milk chocolate, I think that's the issue, because it's just sweet. That's my take on it anyway.
It's a good take. It's a
Yeah.
good take. I think that the most interesting thing not the most interesting thing. We've had so many interesting conversations with amazing, interesting people. And I'm like, the most interesting thing. No, this is not the most interesting thing, but it is an interesting thing to me that many of the bakers that we have talked to, and myself included, I believe Cristina included. So we don't really prefer the sweet. And here I'm hearing you say the same thing. You don't have much of a sweet tooth. So
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Or
think,
the sweet. Oh.
yeah. No. I just have never really had sweet, like super sweet tooth. Like, my mom used to make me trifles for my birthday instead of like a cake, because a trifle is just less sweet. It's also custardy and a little bit of cake, but not a lot of cake, and
Yeah.
a little bit of fruit, but it's Jello. Like, it's perfect.
So it really is about the art and the creativity rather than, our personal sweet tooth.
Well,
Mhm.
but also other people love it, right? And
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
also about like wanting to do something, but then also being able to share it, right? So
Yes.
like,
Absolutely.
COVID sucked for baking, because I'd bake it. My husband trains for marathons, so he'd eat like maybe one slice. I'm like, and my kids are on or off, depends on what was going on. And so, like, you can share with
Well,
anything,
see,
anybody, right? So
I
you're like,
actually used to bake and drop it off at people's homes on the
yeah,
doorstep.
yeah. I think
So,
eventually I started to do that more,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
more
People
because
were just so worried in the beginning,
Yeah.
and I mean, I was like, it's okay. It's never been proven to be transmitted through food. You
Yeah.
can have
Yeah,
it, but still, people are going to play it safe.
Yeah.
In
yeah,
the middle of that incredible, horrible time, yeah,
yeah,
a lot of them were going to play it safe.
Yeah. But it's so cool that time actually also encouraged a lot of people to start baking, or, reignite that passion for
yeah,
baking.
yeah.
So,
Like
And
banana
made the
bread.
competition every year just that much harder for all of us
yeah,
trying to
that's
get on
true.
a baking show. Because all of a sudden everybody knew the show was there, everybody loved the show, and everybody was baking. And I was like,
Baking.
wait, what about
Mm.
me?
Hang on a second. Time out.
Maybe someday, but I still get
Yeah.
to bake in my kitchen.
Someday, I hope so. I
There
hope
you
for both
go.
of you.
Yeah, and the cool thing is the baking community is so marvelous. Like, we talk about this all the time, actually, but it
Yes.
really is amazing that we are part of this community in sort of an directish kind of way. And it's so wonderful that you guys are so willing to come and chat with us and give us time and support us for what we're doing. But even before, like on Instagram, you're just so lovely. You interact with everybody, and you're just so lovely with your comments, and it's so much fun. It really is so wonderful to share that love and support for one another in this community.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still a person. So like it's just, you don't, as much as I was on the show and stuff like that, like you're still kind of who you are, and your friends from before are still your friends from after, and it's just nice to geek out on about baking with people who also get excited about it, because the people at work can only tolerate. I honestly had a conversation about how the fat proteins and the butter were helping my cream cheese frosting yesterday on a work call, and I'm like, okay, I need to stop talking. Like nobody cares. Nobody cares.
We would.
You care, but none of my work people care.
This is your work call for today.
Oh, Candice, that's so hilarious. So,
do you have a baking scrap to leave our listeners with for today?
I was thinking about it. Oh God, I don't know. So I think one thing that really helps me with cakes and baking cakes and transporting the cakes is like the no slip pad, and you can get them at the dollar store or whatever, but like they're a complete lifesaver. For the Montreal edition, I had to fly. They didn't have them in Toronto, and I wanted to, at that point, I'm like, they need to taste the food. Like they'd only ever done it virtually, and I'm like, please taste my food. And so I'm like, I'm going to fly these cakes to Montreal. And I did mini cakes because I was afraid to take one big cake. And then if something happened to the big cake, then I had nothing, right?
Yeah. So I did
these 3 mini cakes, and I managed to get them. Like they were under a seat. Like I had a cake carrier that fit perfectly under the seat. Thank God. I even brought a second carrier. My husband came into the airport. I live 10 minutes from the Toronto airport, so we never park and go inside. Like it's always a drive by, right? Like just run out. Maybe the car slows down. And so I'm like, nope. Park. Brought in a second cake carrier in case the first one was like going to be too big, but the flight attendant or whatever, the Air Canada agents let me on, and but those no slips. Those cakes did not move at all. And if you're worried about transporting your cakes, like you still have to support them. So like, I mean, these were little tiny ones, so they didn't have supports, but like
dowels?
you need to use your cake boards and dowels and all that kind of stuff. But if you don't want them to slide around, having those non-slips are amazing. And then also on your tray table,
yes,
when you're doing it. So that's my little easy, cheap. Yeah, cost $1 for them, and they're so handy. Yeah. Also, will help you open a jar if you need it.
There you go. Perfect. So if you need a jar of maraschino cherries,
that's right.
You can open that up and then slip it under your cake when you need to bring it over. That is fantastic.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of a baking scrap. Just, one little thing that can really make your life, make a world of difference.
Yeah.
In your baking life. Yeah. So thank you for that. And thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me and for asking me to do this. It was a great evening, great way to spend some time with some friends and talk about baking.
It was fantastic. We'll do it again.
I hope so. Awesome.
And next time you come out here or to our neck of the woods, please let us know that you're coming. Yeah, we'll hang out. We'll go for tea. If you come to the island, I have an Airbnb now, so you can come hang out in my downstairs suite. And
excellent.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Wonderful to have had you.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank
Candice.
you, Candice.
Take care.
Okay. See
you.
Do you love her?
Oh, isn't she the best?
I love her so much. I'm so glad she came to chat with us. I
am too. And she had such a long day as well. For her to still take time out of her busy schedule to come and join us was just, I mean, that's Candice.
Yeah.
It's so generous, so gracious, so lovely.
And a night owl. So there we go.
We were lucky for that. Thank you, Candice, for being the night owl.
it has been such a pleasure to get to know her both through the TV screen and then to be able to meet her in person at the audition, and then to be able to go and spend some time with her and some of the other bakers in Toronto. I'm very, very fortunate to have been able to do that. And yeah, it'll be great if she comes to visit, and then you get to have a little bit of in-person time with her too, because, you know, she's great.
Yeah, I have all the time in the world for Candice, and I really do hope that we get a chance to connect up live and in person really, really
100%.
soon. Yeah.
100%. Well, thank you for your time today, everybody, and thank you for joining us and
Thank
listening
you.
and watching. We really appreciate it.
We
And
really do.
hope that everybody has a great week, and we'll
Yeah.
see you next time.
Sounds good. Take care, everyone. Happy baking.
Bye, Cristina.
Bye, Lisa. Talk soon.